Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Wish you all a happy and a prosperous new year. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. Which of the following items is or kept outside the purview of GST? Alcohol for human consumption, petroleum products, medicines. The answer to this is 1 and 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of the GST collections. Let us try and understand what are these options. When we look into the first option, alcohol for human consumption. Yes, it is kept outside the purview of the GST. So the tax imposition can be done by the relevant governments. This is not being discussed by the GST Council. It does not have any tax imposition and all the alcohol for the human consumption will continue as per the structure before the GST implementation. The state governments would be able to impose taxes as well. So this is currently kept outside the purview of the GST. So the first one is correct. When we look into the petroleum products, the petroleum products include petroleum crude, motor spirit, high speed diesel, natural gas, aviation turbine fuel. All this are kept outside the purview of the GST. So remember, alcohol for human consumption, petroleum products are kept outside the purview of the GST, but medicines do fall under the GST as well. So the GST Council will discuss amongst each other. You have the state government representatives, the central government representatives, they discuss and they impose a particular taxation on the medicines. But petroleum products and alcohol for human consumption are exempted from the GST. As part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section, is there any other item or commodity which is kept outside the purview of the GST? Please put it on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to algal blooms, which of the following statements is are correct? Algal blooms may occur in freshwater as well as marine environments. Harmful algal blooms can produce extremely dangerous toxins that can sicken or kill people and animals. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is both. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a mention of the algal blooms. What do we understand by algal blooms? Sudden increase, rapid increase in the population of the algae in the aquatic ecosystem is what is called as the algal blooms. So the algal blooms can happen in the aquatic ecosystems. So this means it can happen in the freshwater and it can also happen in the marine environment. So the first option is correct. When we look into the second option, harmful algal blooms can produce extremely dangerous toxins and it can also kill human beings and animals as well. What do we understand by algal blooms? As we discussed, it is the rapid increase of the population of the algae. How does it occur? It occurs because of the introduction of the nutrients. The nutrients can be in the form of nitrogen, it can be in the form of phosphorus, or it can happen naturally or because of the human introduced changes into the aquatic ecosystem. Let's say, for example, the agricultural runoff, sewage runoff, and other anthropogenic causes like fertilizers being used in the agriculture, this agriculture runoff entering into the aquatic systems, and this aquatic system ultimately seeing sudden growth of the algae. So as we see the sudden growth of the algae, this will have production of toxins in that water bodies. This will also become dense as well. This will also use up oxygen in the existing water, and at the same time it will also have harmful gases as well. So when you have these toxins produced in the water, if people consume the water, if people drink the water, some of the ill effects can happen on people as well as other organisms. Let me give you one of the example. The most alarming toxin that we have seen when it comes to the algal blooms happens to be domoic acid. What happens in many aquatic ecosystems, because of the algal blooms, it generates alarming toxin in the form of domoic acid. This can disrupt the normal nerve signaling in the brain, can cause disorientation and seizures as well. In fact, it can also cause death of a human being and a person. So basically, because of these toxins that are released in the aquatic ecosystem, if they are consumed by animals or by human beings, this can also kill people as well. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which amongst the following is the best description of Bambata rebellion? It was the beginning of the civil war in Somalia. It was a reaction to inequalities and injustices in British controlled Kenya. Protests against declining living standards and unpopular sovereign policies in East Germany. It was a Zulu revolt against British rule and taxation in natal South Africa. Which amongst this is the best description of Bambata rebellion? The answer to this is it was a Zulu revolt against British rule and taxation in natal South Africa. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference in the Hindu article. The article makes a mention of Zulu. The Bambata rebellion is also called a Zulu rebellion, and it happened back in the year 1906, and it was led by a leader called as Bambata. So remember, this is one of the rebellions that occurs in Natal in South Africa. Why? Because the British imposed taxes. This was not easily accepted by the people in that particular region, and as a result they go against the British, and that is what is called as Bambata rebellion or the Zulu rebellion. And during this particular process, one of the Indian great freedom fighters, Mahatma Gandhi, also served for the British during this period. So because he was serving for the British during this period, he was given what is called as the Zulu War Medal. But Gandhiji, during the non-cooperation movement in connection with the Khilafat movement, goes on to surrender all the medals given by the British during that period. In fact, he was given Kaisar-i-Hind gold medal, he was given Zulu War Medal, he was also given Boer War Medal as well. But Gandhiji goes on to surrender, gives it back to the British because of the non-cooperation movement and the Khilafat movement. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to Sufism. It gained prominence in the 10th and the 11th centuries during the reign of Delhi Sultanate. The Chishti Silsila was founded by Shihabuddin in Baghdad and was established in India by Bahuddin Zakaria. The Chistis accepted maintenance grants from the sultans and took an active part in politics. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a mention of the Sufi shrine Hazrat Tawakal Mastan Dargah. Remember, Sufism becomes very important when it comes to GS paper 1 culture. So let us understand the core principles of Sufism and what are the different kinds of silsilas that are present. When it comes to Sufism, it is a mystical form of Islam, a school of practice that focuses on spiritual search for God and also shuns materialism as well. So the primary focus of Sufism is to love and have devotion towards God. There are different forms of silsilas. What do we mean by silsilas? Basically, it is a connection. You have one Sufi saint. The Sufi saint will form one particular lineage and he'll start transferring his knowledge. So the transfer of knowledge from the Sufi saint to another disciple or the descendants is what is called a silsila. So when it comes to silsila, the two primary silsilas that we have is what is called as the Chishti silsila. The other happens to be the Suhrawardi silsila. And as part of the assignment, there are other silsilas as well. You have to put on the comment section. The two important silsilas happen to be the Suhrawardi silsila and the Chishti silsila. The Chishti order was established in India by Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti. So remember, it was established by Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti, and when it comes to Suhrawardi silsila, it was founded by Shihabuddin Suhradi in Baghdad and was established in India by Bahuddin Zakaria. Now if you look into the option, the Chishti silsila was not founded by Shihabuddin in Baghdad. That is why second option would be wrong. And when it comes to the third option, the Chistis accepted maintenance grants from the sultans and took an active part in politics. This is also a wrong statement. Why? It was not Chishti silsila, but instead it was the Suhrawadi silsilas who had accepted maintenance grants from Sultan and took active part in politics. Since 2 and 3 are wrong, The answer to this would be 1 only. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following is a most likely consequence of implementing the unified payments interface? Mobile wallets will not be necessary for online payments. Digital currency will totally replace the physical currency in about 2 decades. FDI inflows will drastically increase. Direct transfer of subsidies to poor people will become very effective. Which of this is the likely consequence of implementing the unified payments interface? The answer to this is mobile wallets will not be necessary for the online payments. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2017. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is Project Himang. What is this Project Himang? We have the border areas which require the infrastructure. We have the northern part, we have the eastern part, we have the western part, we also have the southern part. There are border areas that are present. We require development of these border areas. We require development of infrastructure, laying of roads in these border areas. And one of the organization which takes up this particular road laying along the border areas happens to be the Border Roads Organization. So it is the Border Roads Organization which takes up the prerogative to lay infrastructure roads in the border areas. And one such project that is taken up by the Border Roads Organization in the Ladakh region is what is called as Project Himang. So what is Project Himang? It is a project of the Border Roads Organization where in the Ladakh region. And this is one of the regions which has the highest motorable roads across the Kurdungla, Tangla and Changla passes. So it is a project taken by the Border Roads Organization to lay roads in the Ladakh region which has the world's highest motorable roads. So what does the Border Roads Organization do? It helps us to connect to the military sensitive areas. It helps us to connect to the battleground at the Siachen Glacier and also to the Bangkok So Lake in this part of Ladakh. What is the present context? We have the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh who has inaugurated about 27 projects built by the Border Roads Organization. Out of these 27 projects, it includes about 24 bridges. It also includes about 3 roads as well. And one among the 24 bridges is now on what has become the world's highest motorable road, passing through a pass situated at an elevation of 19,000 feet. The road is in South Ladakh. It connects Chismule and Demchok. It passes through a pass known as Umingla, which is at a height of over 19,000 feet. What is the significance of this particular project? This particular project will help the armed forces mobilize the troops, and they would also be able to carry the equipment and rations as soon as possible. And at the same time, it will also boost the tourism, improve the socio-economic conditions of the local people in this particular region. So it will help the military and at the same time it will also help the tourism sector as well. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.